Hello student, we are discussing here the chapter number 9 of the class 6. The name of this chapter is the living organism and the surrounding. So in the previous class we already discussed what are the meaning of the living organism, and in today class we will be discuss what kind of the surrounding, what are the meaning of the surrounding they have. Now students, the first terms is come in the these chapters. We have to remember a habitat. So you have to remember what are the meaning of the habitat. Habitat is a terms which we use for the living place or a place where the animals and the plants is lives. I am talking about the organism. Where the organism will be live, that will be known the habitat. So I can write here, habitat is a place where organism lives. Organism means, I hope you know that we are talking about the plants and the animals. Plants and animals, plants and animals lives. So where you will be see the plants and animals is live, that will be known the habitat. If I ask you where you live, so definitely you will be say I live in my house. So your house is your habitat. The reason is because you get the all things in your house. You get the food, you get the security, you get the shelters, you get the airs. Okay, you get the everything whatever you need at your house. Okay, so one thing that the shelters a kind of the protections at your house. So definitely these things are the required for the habitat, or all these things will be provided for the habitat, so that will be known the a good place or a place. Now we will be classify the habitat. We will be classifying into the two groups. You all know that the some plants live in the land surface and some plants live in the water. I'm talking about the plants as well as the animals. So we can say one will be known as the terrestrial habitat, and second one will be known as the aquatic habitat. This is the terrestrial habitat. Second one, aquatic habitat. So student, you have to remember that the terrestrials, terra means the land surface. Those habitat, those animals or plants which live in the ground or on the land surface, that will be known as the terrestrial habitat. Okay, and those plants which live in the water, you have to remember aqua means the waters. So water habitat, that will be known as the aquatic habitat. So there are we can further classify them into the few groups. Terrestrials, we have seen there are the different type of the land surface, like the desert is also a land surface, but it is completely different from the mountain surface. So mountain is also a terrestrial surface because there is also land is present. So we are classifying the further terrestrial habitat like the desert, like the mountain, like the forest. So this is the different type of the terrestrial habitat. Similarly, we can also classify the aquatic habitat, like the pond. Pond is a, yes, still waters, and yes, it's a small amount of the waters comparatively to the sea and the ocean. So pond, like the lake, like the sea, like the oceans, river. Okay, sea, river, ocean. So these are the different type of the aquatic habitat. So we can classify them further it. So I hope you get the meaning of it, how we classify the terrestrial habitat and aquatic habitat. Now students, we will be discuss about what are the major component of the habitat. Habitat. So student, you have to remember that the habitat is made by the two different type of the component. And what are those components? You all know that the habitat is made by the living things as well as, or we can say the habitat is contains the living thing as well as the non-living things. So both is the component which is present in the habitat, and living things is generally known as the biotic habitat. I am writing here biotic habitat or biotic components, and non-living things will be known as the abiotic habitat because they do not have any life. So that's why we are calling the abiotic habitat. I hope you get the meaning of it. Now students, we will be discuss what are the meaning of the adaptation. We will be discuss here the adaptation. Now students, you have to remember that there are some certain animals, they have some body specific body features. I'm telling the specific body features that help them to survive in a particular conditions, in particular habitat. That will be known the adaptation. For example, if I take the example of the fish, you all know that fish can be only survive in the water. It cannot survive in the land surface or terrestrial surface. The reason is because fish required the dissolved oxygens for the survive. It require the dissolved oxygens. The reason is because they have a gills. Gills help them to get the oxygens from the dissolved waters or dissolved oxygens. Okay, so gills get the dissolved oxygens from the waters and they can be easily survive. So they, this kind of the adaptations, or we can say they have a body specific features like the gills. So this is a body specific features that will be known the adaptations. These adaptations in the fish. And another adaptations, like they can be easily move in the waters. The reason is because they have a, yes, this kind of the shape. They are thicker, they are the very wide at the mid part, and they are the very thin at the corners. So this kind of the shape is generally known as the streamline shape. So they have a streamline shapes which help them to move in the waters. They can easily move in the waters. So streamline shape that will be help fish to move. Okay, so these are the kind of the adaptation. If we talk about the like camel, you all know that camel can be survive in the terrestrial regions like the desert. It cannot be survive in the water. The reason is because it has a lungs. It require the oxygens, not dissolved oxygens. And camels can be survive in the desert terrestrial regions. Desert where the water is present in the low quantity. But when we talk about the camel, camel has a hump on their back. जो बैक होती है कैमल्स के वहां पर hump होता है, and this hump is help, or we can say this hump is act as a storeroom for the food and the waters. When they get the water and the food, so they absorb it or they take it in the high quantity and they store in their home and they use it whenever they get is whenever they require it. Okay, in the case of emergency they use their food from the home. So this kind of the adaptations is present in the camel, so that's why he can be survive in the desert and not other animals because they have not the harm. So I hope you get the meaning of the adaptations, some specific features in the body of the animals, of the plants, that will be known the adaptations. I hope you complete, you understand the meaning of the adaptations. Now student, we will be discuss here some adaptations in the terrestrial habitat. Firstly, we will be discuss the adaptations in the terrestrial habitat, and then we will be discuss the adaptations in the aquatic habitat. So we are starting what kind of the adaptations is present in the terrestrial habitat. You know that we classify the terrestrial habitat into the few classification or few groups, like the first desert, second one is the mountains, and third one is forest. So this is the further classification of the terrestrial habitat: desert, mountain, and last one is the forest. Now, student, we will be discuss here what kind of the animals are live in this habitat. You know that some animals which can live in the desert, they cannot be survive in the mountains and forest. Those animals which can survive in the mountain regions, they cannot be survive in the desert and forest. Similarly, those animals which can survive in the forest regions, they generally does not survive in the desert and mountain regions. So, firstly, we take some example of the animals which survive in the desert, like the camel. You all know that camel live in the desert. Like the snake, they also live in the desert. Similarly, if you will be see here on the mountain regions, yes, mountain region is a very cold region. So here you will be see like the yak, like the sheep, like leopard, like buffalo, like yes, there are so many like the goat. Okay, so these kind of the example, these kind of the animals you will be find in the mountain regions. Okay, I am writing here because they have a, yes, long fur on their body. Similarly, if you talk about the forest, so there are so many animals you will be find in the forest because it is a very dense There is a large number of the plant, large number of the animal is present, so it's a habitat of the most of the animals. You will be find like the lion animals, lion, lion, elephant, okay, monkey and crocodiles. So you will be find large number of the animals in the forest regions. Thus there is a simple reason, because it is a habitat of the all animals. All those animals, all the animals get the sufficient amount of their favorable conditions. They get the habitat, they get their food, they get all the things which is required to those animals. Now we discuss here what kind of the adaptations those animals which live in the desert. For example, like the camel, we already discussed. Camels have a harm on their body, on their back, which help camels to store the food in the large amount. In the case of emergency, they can use it. And similarly, another adaptations in the camels, they have a long leg. And why the long leg help them? Yes, definitely during the daytimes, you know that in the desert it's got the high temperatures. There's a very high temperatures. So from the hotness of the land, the long legs protect their body from the heat. Okay, so yes, they will lose their heat but not the higher extent, or we can say उनकी जो बॉडी की हीट है वो काफी कम लॉस होगी, ठीक है, बिकॉज दे आर इजिली प्रोटेक्टेड देयर बॉडी फ्रॉम द hotness of the desert. And similarly you will be see, yes, camels has a fur on their skins, and it's a very skins which protects the water from their body. यहाँ इनकी जो skins होती हैं उसमें से waters evaporate नहीं होता. Similarly होता है but बहुत रेयर एक्सटेंट होता है, कम होता है कंपैरेटिवली अदर एनिमल्स की. बट व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट द स्नैक्स, snake is also can survive in the low amount of the water. So that's why these kind of the animals can easily found on the desert region. Like if we talk about the mountain, yak, sheep, and leopards. I think you have seen they have a layer of the fur, thick layer of the fur, and thick layer of the skin. So both skins and fur has a thick layers which protect the heat of their animals. Okay, so those animals heat is protected by their furs and the skin, so that's why they can be survive on the mountains or the cold regions. Mountain, you know that there is a temperature is the very low, so during it's a very cold temperatures or cold regions, so they can be survive. They protect their heat through the furs and through the skin. So skins is a very thick, fur is a very thick, so this is the adaptations in these animals. If we talk about the forest animals like the lion, elephant, or monkey, definitely you have seen they have a very, yes, if we talk about the lions, so lions kill their prey, क्योंकि इनको क्या करना होता है, डियर को ही कैच करते हैं, हंट करते हैं, सो दे कैन इजीली हंट द क्लो बिकॉज दे आर द लार्ज नंबर ऑफ द प्रेजेंट. जो भी हमारे डियर्स हैं वो काफी ज्यादा प्रेजेंट होते हैं, बिकॉज फॉरेस्ट इज ए वेरी डेंस एरिया वेयर यू विल बी फाइंड द लार्ज नंबर ऑफ द प्लांट्स. जब ज्यादा प्लांट्स हैं तो डियर भी ज्यादा अमाउंट में मिलेंगे, ज्यादा नंबर में मिलेंगे. सो लायंस कैन इजीली कैच देयर prey in the forest regions. And similar, lions has a very sharp claw and strong teeth, okay, and they have a very long yes legs, so definitely it help them to be in the hunt their prey. So they are the some features, there are some characteristics in the animals. Lions can easily hide in the grasses because they have a brown in color, so this is the kind of the adaptations. If we talk about the elephant, definitely elephant is also live in the forest. It require the large number of the foods, so yes, जो large foods है वो हमारा forest में ही presence होता है, ठीक है. So yes, you will be see all the animals get their favorable conditions. They can easily survive in the forest. So that's why they live in the forest regions. So yes, this is the kind of the adaptations. Now students, we will be discuss what kind of the adaptations found in the aquatic habitat. I'm writing here the aquatic habitat, aquatic habitat, aquatic habitat. So firstly, you have to remember that those animals, those plants live in the waters. They will be, yes, come under the aquatic habitat, or we can say they have the aquatic habitat. Generally, we will be classify the aquatic habitat into the two groups. First, we can say those ocean, or seas. Yeah, I think you all know that the ocean and seas has a salty waters. And second type of the aquatic habitat we can say like the lake, river, okay, or we can say like the ponds. Okay, so definitely they have a kind of the fresh waters comparatively the ocean and seas. They have a salty waters, and it's a large amount of the waters they are the present. If you are talking about the ocean and seas, when we talk about the lake, rivers, ponds, yes, it's a kind of the fresh waters. It's not a large area, it will not present in the large area. So firstly we talk about the oceans. I think you have seen the ocean is a very big very big area of the waters. So there are so many plants, so many animals are live in the oceans. We are talking about the both plants as well as the animals, they live in the ocean. So you have to remember most of the aquatic animals they have a kind of the features. And what are those features? Yes, they have a streamlined body shapes. I'm writing here a streamlined body shape. Okay, streamlined body. What are the meaning of it? I think I have already discussed it. These kind of the shapes. If animals which are thick at the mid parts and thin at the corners. So most of the fish, most of the aquatic animals has these kind of the characteristics. So we can say the aquatic animals have a streamlined body, and similarly they get or they need the dissolved oxygens. Okay, they require the dissolved oxygen. So this is the another adaptations or characteristics of the aquatic animals. They require the dissolved oxygens. And if you will be see, they get the dissolved oxygens by the gills. Okay, I hope you all know that the gills are the organs in the fish, in the aquatic animals, which help to get the dissolved oxygens. But you have to remember all aquatic animals does not have the gills. There are some animals which has a lungs. I'm repeating here, some animals which has a lungs which does not have the gills. For example, like the, yes, dolphin. These are the exceptions example, but you have to remember the dolphin and the whale. These are the very large fish, and these fish does not have the gills. They have the lungs. They have a kind of the holes. Okay, so how they reciprocate? They have a hole, and this is known as the blowhole, kind of the nose. Okay, just upside their mouths. So there are a blowholes are present, and they reciprocate through them. So they do not have the gills. They get the directly oxygen. So that's why they come at the surface after a certain time. So वो हर बार surface पे क्यों आते हैं? क्योंकि उनको भी oxygen चाहिए. So they will not get the dissolved oxygens. They require the direct oxygens, and they get it from the environment. Okay, so I hope you get what are the kind of the characteristic is present in the animals. Similarly, if we talk about the plants, so you have seen the plants are grown in the ponds, lakes, and the rivers. So they generally grown in the different types. If we classify them, if you will be see, suppose this is the level of the water. I'm just making it, and this is the surface of the soil inside of the waters. Suppose this is the soil of soil layer. Now, students, if you will be see here, there are so many plants which are grown on the surface of the water. Suppose this is a flower plant which are growing on the surface of the water, and this is the root. This is the root here I am writing, and that is the kind of the plants which are growing on the surface of the waters. Its root is not growing onto the surface of soil, but there are some plants which partially is grown into the soil. सपोज करो ये फ्लावर है और इसकी जो स्टेम्स है वो काफी डाउन तक गई है और सोइल सोइल के नीचे तक ग्रो कर रही है. सो इट इज ए यस पार्सली सबमर्ज, क्योंकि ऊपर भी है आधा और आधा नीचे भी है. बट देयर आर सम प्लांट्स विच इज कंप्लीटली सबमर्ज. सबमर्ज मीन्स वो बिल्कुल ही नीचे ही रहते हैं, उनकी सोइल भी नहीं, उनकी रूट्स भी नीचे हैं. Plant is also completely down to the level of the waters. They will not be visible from the outer surface. So we just classify them. The first type of the plants Definitely, it is float on the surface, float on the surface. And second is the partially submerged. And third type of the plant is, yes, completely submerged in the plant, in the soil. Okay, or definitely you have seen those plants which is float on the waters. There are so many examples, but you can remember like the lettuce. Water lettuce is a flower plant which float on the waters. If I gave you the example which partially submerge in the waters, you can remember the lily plant and the lotus plant. So lotus and lily, both plants are partially submerged in the water. So we can say their root is bind to the soil surface and they float on the above the surface of the waters. And there are so many plants which is completely submerged in the waters. And there you can write the name like the hydrelia. If I write here, the hydrelia is the plants which is completely submerged in the waters. Okay, so I hope you get the meaning of it, what kind of the plants is generally present. And